Good morning and welcome, everyone. My name is Lola Okanola, and I serve as the Senior Regional Manager for the Southern Region here at Welcoming America. And I'm joining you from the cold and sunny Atlanta, Georgia. This is our third and final session of the Welcoming Economies program for the year. And our conversation today focuses on supporting immigrant-owned small businesses in a hostile climate. I have the honor of facilitating today's session along with our wonderful partners from Global Detroit's Pluribus team. I'm joined by Steve Tobocman, Sloan Herrick, and Lauren Boone, who will have the opportunity to introduce themselves in just a moment. We are grateful for their partnership, expertise, and leadership throughout this entire series. Before we begin, I would like to share a bit about Welcoming America, especially for those of you who may be joining us for the first time. Welcoming America is a network of cities, counties, and nonprofit organizations working to foster belonging and inclusion for immigrants and residents in communities across the United States and abroad. At the heart of our mission is the belief that all people, regardless of where they come from, should feel valued and have the opportunity to contribute to the social, economic, and cultural life of their communities. Some of the key programs we offer include Welcoming Economies, Rural Welcoming Initiative, Gateways for Growth, Certified Welcoming, and our annual global celebration known as Welcoming Week, which takes place in September and brings people together across the world to celebrate inclusion and connection. We are also the convener of the biannual Welcoming Interactive, which will take place again in 2027, bringing together local leaders and partners to learn, share, and build stronger welcoming communities collectively. Today's conversation reflects the heart of this work. Immigrant-owned small businesses strengthen local economies, they create jobs, and they contribute to the cultural vibrancy that makes our communities unique. That's exactly why it is important for us to come together and have this conversation. Thank you again for being here. With that, I would like to pass it over to our colleague and partner, Steve Tobocman, to lead us into today's session. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome everybody. My name is Steve Tobocman. I'm the Executive Director at Global Detroit, and we partner with Welcoming America on the Welcoming Economies through our ePluribus program, which is our national program I'll tell you a little bit more about once I let Sloan and Lauren also introduce themselves. So go ahead, Sloan, and then followed by Lauren.
Hi, everyone. I see some familiar faces here today, so good to see you. I'm on the ePluribus team and focus a bit on international student retention, small business support, as well as the global EIR program. And we're just thrilled to have all of you in the room today to have this thoughtful and practical conversation about supporting entrepreneurs. Thanks.
Lauren? Seems like she froze. Lauren Boone is part of our team, and now you want to try again? Go ahead.
Yeah, I froze right when I was about to introduce myself. Hi, everyone. Lauren Boone. I support Steve and Sloan with the ePluribus work. I'm so glad to see you all here today, and I hope you enjoy the panelists and discussion.
Great. I think you could go to the next slide. So Global Detroit, we are a nonprofit. This is part of a three-part series this year that Welcoming America and Global Detroit's ePluribus program partnered on around welcoming economies. And so this is the third of the three-part series. If we go to the next slide. And so we've covered a whole bunch of other topics up to this point. I think you can find them online. If not, just email any of us, and we will get you recordings of those prior topics that we've done throughout the year. Today, so first of all, Global Detroit is an economic development organization that its big idea is that the intentional inclusion of immigrants in our community economic development strategies are going to produce superior economic development and urban revitalization outcomes. We work locally, statewide, and nationally. You can go to the next slide. Our national work, as I mentioned, is under ePluribus. Its goal is to build a movement of local immigrant inclusive economic development initiatives who in their each and own way are thinking about immigrant inclusion as part of their community and economic development strategies, policies, practices, and programs. And as I said, through that, we've been partnering with Welcoming America's Welcome Economies program. Now, I think celebrating our 12th year or 13th year doing that. So super exciting. Next slide. So today's topic, this is the third, as I said, of three this year, is how to support immigrants-owned small businesses in this current climate of enhanced immigration enforcement. And what does that mean? And so we're going to hear from three really local programs that are real models for people to pick up on, one from Cincinnati, one from Philadelphia, one from California's Central Valley. And we're also going to talk a little bit about national data on this topic, and hopefully you'll leave with a whole host of ideas and opportunities for action. You can go to the next slide. As I said, we're going to explore national data trends on this topic, learn about tactics to support those entrepreneurs, and hopefully you take away some opportunities for your own local work. And you can go to the next slide, Anthony. Great. So during today's, the outline of our agenda today is I'll start by telling you about some national data around immigrant small business ownership. And then we will hear from our three panelists and they'll respond. It'll be a question and answer. I'll ask some questions. They'll respond in kind. And then Lola is going to host an opportunity for people to interact, give their own thoughts and reflections, add what you're doing locally, and ask our panelists questions or brainstorm ideas that you're hearing on how to move forward. And then we'll wrap up and get to next steps. Next slide. So I'm going to, you can actually take it down now, and I'll pull up my own slide. There's an exciting project going on right now that we're a part of with a couple partners. So Global Detroit and its ePluribus program is partnering really on contract from Build From Within Alliance and the Immigrant Research Initiative out of New York. That's David Kallick. You might know him from his days at the Fiscal Policy Institute before that. Build From Within Alliance is a collection of local comprehensive micro enterprise initiatives across, I think, 20-some communities. And each of the members are implementing a 4-pillar model of small business support that include business training, ongoing technical assistance, character-based lending, and then a little bit of a real estate development component so that their entrepreneurs help revitalize communities. And they've received a grant to help make the case around why. So they support immigrant entrepreneurs in these local communities. They support African-American entrepreneurs, sometimes Native American entrepreneurs, but they really, all of the members of the Build From Within Alliance focus on low-income entrepreneurs of color and low-income communities of color. And so they received a grant to really do some case making about the importance of immigrant entrepreneurs. And so I'm going to walk you through some of the findings, but I do want to say that this project is still very much in the works. So we're not going to be sending out this slide deck. You're welcome to take notes, but I would not, none of these data has been finalized. I would not put this data out there for public consumption, and know that within hopefully less than 90 days, more like 60 days, you will get access to this data, and not just the data I'm showing you, because today I'm just going to show you national data, but that data just this week is being broken down, and we will have 50 states worth of data. So everybody, you can see this data in your individual state, and we'll also break it down for every metro area in the US, every MSA that has over 10,000 foreign-born people. For example, I do know that St. Cloud, Minnesota will be included in that. So you get this scale of how small of metros we can get into. And so you'll also have this on the metro level. So with that, let me walk you through this data if I can. There we go. So there are 1.5 million immigrant business owners in the United States. I'm going to have to take off the chat. So somebody else will have to let me know if there's something I need to react to. Just interrupt me. These business owners are 22% of all the immigrant business owners are 22% of all business owners in the country, and 4.4% of all immigrants in the labor force own a business. Okay, so immigrants are roughly 14% of the total population in the US, 18% of the labor force, but 22% of the business owners. You can see that over this, it's probably hard to see the numbers here, but at the far left over here is 2000, the middle point here is 2010, and the far right is the last data. Last year we have data for 2023, and you can see that immigrants have increased from 12 to 18% of the labor force, but they've had an even greater increase of 14 to 22% of business owners in the country. The earnings have grown also, and so there's $126 billion of business earnings in individual earnings, and it's 19% of the total. So they're 22% of the businesses, 19% of the earnings, individual earnings as business owners. This, you can see, this is broken down and it's organized by this column right here, the number of immigrant business owners in the sector. So the most common business to own is in the construction business. 194,000 immigrants in the United States own a construction related business, 94,000 in restaurants. And you can see below down here, this is on the far right is the percentage of all business owners. So there are 194,000 construction related businesses. They make up 21% of all the construction related businesses. You can see taxi and limousine services. There are about 28,000 immigrant owned businesses, but they make up 60% of all the taxi and limousine services. We will have a much longer list than this. This is just, I think, the top 10, if I'm not mistaken. And again, like, you know, there's probably hard to see these slides, and I'm going to go kind of fast. But then you can see the type of Main Street business owners. And so the number one common Main Street business, like, you know, the kind of business that brings retail to a retail district, to a downtown district, restaurant and food is by far number one, followed by beauty and nail salons, and then supermarkets, grocery stores. You can see 33% of all the grocery stores, excluding convenience stores, are owned by immigrants. 47% of the gas stations, 50% of the dry cleaning. Basically 27% of all Main Street businesses in the country are immigrant owned. So this is all data that you will, once this report is public, be able to make commentary about why it's important to support the immigrant business owners. So 3.5% of US born Americans own a business, 4.4% of immigrants do. And you can see that the startup rates increase the longer somebody has been in the country. And so a higher percentage of immigrants who have been here 20 plus years own businesses compared to those who are in their first 5 years. We are going to be able to break this down by country of origin. So you can see that there are over 7 million Mexican Americans, people who were born in Mexico, who are in the labor force, and 212,000 business owners. It's the largest country of origin for business ownership. But only 3% of Mexican Americans are in the labor force are business owners. You can see down here that for Koreans, 9% of the Korean American population in the labor force, again, Korean immigrant population, are business owners. That is almost 3 times the national average, but collectively there's 56,000 Korean-owned businesses. So again, we'll have much more data than this. We'll also hopefully be able to break this down by the state and metro level. You can see then among race, Black US-born folks own businesses, 1.9% of the workforce who are Black, and US-born own a business, but 2.7% of immigrants who are in the workforce who are Black own a labor force. You can see at each and every level, every race, there are more business owners among the immigrant population within that race. And then some additional demographics showing, the share of the population, the share of the labor force, and the share of business ownership. And so you can see that, anyway, so that plays out. And then we also have some analysis on African American business ownership, because we know that that's an important topic to cover. So I'm going to move to our discussion. I don't know if there's any burning questions about that. I should say, not only is there going to be a final report with access to data, you'll be able to somehow access your state's data in your metro if you have over 10,000 foreign-born people in your metro. But for Build From Within Alliance, we are looking at how do we create draft op-eds, how do we create case statements. That work is going to be done closely with Build From Within Alliance members, two of whom are on our panel today, the Welcoming Center and Civic. And so it won't, and there'll be a full report, that will probably have recommendations and things like, this is an important a community to serve in small business programs. You should build language access in your small business programs. You should think about employing trusted connectors, etc. So we're really excited about that project. It's a woefully underfunded project and an incredibly important project. And hopefully the first level of reporting on this will enable us to do more work. But I would also say, if you get this, you have questions, you see it, please don't hesitate to reach out to Global Detroit, in particular as the co-author of the study, and we will work with any Welcoming America member to understand and use the data effectively in your own advocacy.
So I think, Steve, one of the questions that comes up for me is sort of how to find this report when it's available. I'm going to put two URLs in the chat. One is the Build From Within Alliance website, and the other is the Global Detroit website, because they will most definitely be there. We'll also work with Welcoming America, try to get it out through the member forum.
Yeah, so right, exactly. And this is really Build From Within Alliance's product. And so it'll be on our website as well. I'm sure it'll probably be on the Immigrant Research Initiative website, but absolutely we'll get it out through Welcoming America channels. All right, Anthony, can you pull up the next slide while I introduce our speaker panel? Great. So we're really lucky to be joined today by some people and organizations that many of you know really well, because they've been leaders in the Welcoming Economies and Welcoming America movement. Specifically, Brian Wright as the executive director of Cincinnati Compass, and they are an organization that I'll let Brian talk more, but they work out of their Chamber of Commerce and represent, I believe, comprehensive immigrant welcoming plan, and they are the manifestation of what that welcoming plan created. Juan Carranza is the director of immigrant entrepreneurship at the Central Valley Immigrant. Oh my God, now I'm forgetting what Civic stands for. In any event, he'll explain what the Civic stands for, but it's in California's Central Valley. It's an immigrant rights and economic inclusion organization, and they've been a member of the Build From Within Alliance for the last several years. And then we're also joined by Leila El Tanir, who is the director of entrepreneurship at the Welcoming Center, and they are an immigrant inclusive economic development organization in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and they've been a longtime member of Welcoming America, and they are also a member of the Build From Within Alliance. So I'm going to ask our facilitators to, I don't remember, spotlight or whatever, me and the three panelists, and I'm going to ask them some questions, and they are going to answer them in a order where Layla will give us the first answer, followed by Juan, followed by Brian. And so obviously, you guys all had been doing work with immigrant small businesses, and then the election came along and greatly changed the environment in which immigrants thrive in this country, and also what in terms of how people shop in immigrant communities, etc. And we'll get to some of the tactics responding to the moment in a second. But why don't we just start with describe your role and approach in directly supporting immigrant entrepreneurs and the broader ecosystem so that they're welcoming and responsive to the needs of immigrant entrepreneurs. So Layla, why don't you talk a little bit about the Welcoming Center and how you approach this issue?
Sure. Thank you for having me. So the Welcoming Center has 4 key areas of focus. Entrepreneurship is one of them. We have work readiness, English, and digital skills, and then community leadership. So we're very much in the direct service mode, and within our entrepreneurship practice, we have all 4 pillars, whether it's us directly providing it or key partners. So for example, we have our business planning courses that we run in multiple languages, and I can touch on that a little bit more in the conversation. We have developed more of an infrastructure around business coaching and technical assistance, especially with everything that's gone on this year. We have partners in our ecosystem that plug into that CDFI portion for the lending, and then we have opened another nonprofit to help scale and develop businesses under the real estate pillar. So that's a little bit about what we do, and I can speak more to how we've adapted this year in particular.
Great. We'll get back to you on that. Juan, do you want to spell out what the Central Valley Immigrant Inclusion Consortium or
Thank
whatever
you,
means?
Steve, and no problem at all. I always get the long names. You know, my employers always get the longest names, but it is the Central Valley Immigrant Integration Collaborative, better known as CIVIC. And so just to answer your question, CIVIC operates under a regional collaborative model, which aims to integrate immigrant entrepreneur communities into the socioeconomic systems of the Central Valley. The Central Valley, you know, typically people refer to it as the breadbasket of the world, or, you know, the fields that feed the world. And that's typically true, but there is more to, you know, to the region. You know, our region is home for a lot of creativity and a lot of entrepreneurial spirit. And most of that entrepreneurial spirit is led by immigrants. Just to give you an idea, more than 45% of the residents of our region are immigrants or are the sons of immigrants. So, you know, that's a lot of people located within this region. And in some of the counties, the figure is even higher. So the presence of immigrants is undeniable. When it comes to entrepreneurship, 1 in 4 businesses is owned by immigrants, which translates a lot into a lot of local revenue, creating thousands of jobs, you know, from food trucks to restaurants, construction companies, childcare centers, all the way to new tech startups, all of them contributing to the prosperity of the region. Just to give you an idea, in Fresno County alone, immigrant-owned businesses generate over $1.5 billion in annual revenue. So that's a lot of impact, you know, so their impact, the contribution is undeniable. Despite that positive impact and contribution to the economy, immigrant entrepreneurs face a lot of challenges. This socio-political environment is definitely a hit for the immigrant communities in our region, and specifically in the Central Valley, because the majority of the residents are immigrants and most of the cases are undocumented. I'm going to be specifically speaking about the Latino immigrant Spanish-speaking entrepreneurs who are typically disinvested, and in most of the times, they're left out of the economic development planning at the regional levels. So we cover different areas, and we have different pillars that I'm going to dive a little bit more into. But specifically speaking, we have a very holistic model that approaches and services the immigrant communities in the Central Valley through immigration services, entrepreneurship, training opportunities, and now digital literacy as well. So I'm going to be diving in some of the strategies and the tactics that we are providing to these immigrant entrepreneurs in the Central Valley region by expanding entrepreneurship access, advancing digital equity, fostering partnerships to ensure that they are included in the regional economic growth, and of course, some of the advocacy efforts that we having and that we are supporting at the local and the state level as well.
What I love about this panel is that you have the Welcoming Center, which has 20 plus folks. They do a lot of workforce development stuff. They're started focusing on economic inclusion. They do civic engagement, civic empowerment, which overlaps where civic really began as that civic engagement and empowerment work and move to the entrepreneurship. They both have dedicated programs to do entrepreneurship. And then we have Cincinnati Compass, which is a smaller operation, often a two-person shop, and they're doing all of it, right? Everybody overlaps in what they're doing. And so they're supporting small businesses, but they're doing it with and so I mean, all of you are working with partners quite extensively in how you do it, but particularly at Cincinnati Compass. So with that, Brian, tell us a little bit about how you guys are approaching immigrant small business owners and in the larger small business ecosystem to foster welcoming and inclusion.
Sure. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate the thoughtful introduction. And yes, so we are, and as you said earlier, we came out of the previous mayor's task force immigration, and so where a welcome plan was formed. And so we came out of the mayor's task force, but then we're rooted and we're based in the Cincinnati Regional Chamber. And so we are a regional entity covering Southwest Ohio, Northern Kentucky, Southeast Indiana. And so with those partners, we have about 65 community partners who believe that immigrants are key contributors to a strong regional economy and diverse, vibrant community. And so with our work, we are rooted in both civic and business as well as public and private, but at our core, we're rooted in community. And so we play the role of a trusted connector. And so what that means for us and the way that we do this work is that we start in community, connecting people to resources, connecting communities to each other, to capacity build for that welcoming piece, but also to elevate their voices. And that's where we also play the role of a convener. And we connect the people to the providers, but also we work with providers to make sure, whether it's a CDFI, small business training based out of a library, regional economic development group, what have you, and I'll go into details about that, to make sure that their services are visible and accessible to community members. And then we also do a lot of narrative and storytelling. So we are a non-gateway city. And what I mean by that is we're a smaller immigrant destination, but we are growing. And so actually more than 2/3 of our regional population is due to immigrants moving into the region. And while immigrants make up around 6.5% of the regional population, they punch above their weight class in many industries, including in areas of entrepreneurship, where they make up nearly 10% of entrepreneurs. So we focus our work in areas of workforce development, small business development, civic engagement, narrative, and storytelling. But we again, rooted in community and use the role of the trusted connector to connect people to resources and also to make sure that those providers are deeply connected to immigrant communities and entrepreneurs, whether it's around getting certifications for women, minority business enterprises, access to capital, and there are barriers to that, and helping them understand, what immigration status as it relates to entrepreneurship, and then again, narrative and storytelling. So.
Thanks. I just want to let our panelists know that we're ahead of time, so take your time in these answers. We're doing great. In a second, I appreciate what Brian said about trusted connectors, and I think often when you're an Office of New Americans, a mayor's office of immigrant affairs, or a welcoming initiative with just one or two staff people, that might be one of the highest and best uses of your time. And we'll, in a second, I'm going to put in the chat a guide to help you around that. But let's get to our second question, which is, this is a moment where we're seeing in immigrant communities, people fearful, afraid to go out and leave the home if not necessary. We have businesses that, are fearful of raids. We have, some folks who are not showing up to work because they're fearful of what might happen. So how are you guys responding to today's political and economic realities amidst this, particularly with your small business owners that you support? We'll go in the same order. So Layla, you're up first.
Yep. So I think first and foremost, like outside of our program, it's really responding to the community need, and it was both on an immigrant and then an ally to the immigrant community level, especially within the hospitality sector in Philadelphia. I know Anuj and I, our CEO, and a number of people at the organization were getting a lot of questions around Know Your Rights. There were not a lot of resources available in the city. Nobody was really talking about it. if they didn't have to. And so we started to get involved in putting on Know Your Rights trainings for immigrants initially, and then it went out to the larger business community. And there were a lot of people interested in how do we adapt our workspaces so that immigrants feel safer coming into work. You know, we're looking at both documented and undocumented. We went all the way to run these Know Your Rights trainings in several languages with partners across the city, and then started raising awareness around it as well. So we actually launched this Know Your Rights beer. I hope you can see it, in partnership with a local brewery. Sorry, I don't know why it's so blurry. And it ended up being a partial fundraiser as well for our organization and Juntos, which is another organization in this space. We are continuing our Know Your Rights trainings. We're looking at potentially doing another round of the beer next year since it's sold out. So that's one. I think on like a program and like org level within entrepreneurship, we've had to adapt a little bit. So with our planning courses, we've actually, at the first half of the year, had to do a couple of them virtual. And even then they were scared to show their names, show their faces on Zoom or Teams. And then we kind of saw a little bit of a shift once they kind of understood the precautions we were putting in place, and that we were, you know, educating all of our staff, our consultants, everyone that was a touch point of the Welcoming Center on what to do, how to respond, having a policy in place across all 3 campuses that we operate in. And now we've been able to run our courses in new languages like Brazilian, Portuguese, and Russian, in addition to Spanish, Dari, Ukrainian. So it's been an incredible year in that sense. I think when it came to technical assistance, this was actually with support of our commerce department that funds most of our program. They actually gave us some additional dollars to do specific technical assistance / business coaching for existing entrepreneurs or existing businesses that maybe didn't come through our program on how to adapt to the current challenges, you know, try and be a little bit more forward thinking about purchasing supplies and before cost of everything went up, looking at adapting their products to different audiences, marketing, all those kinds of things. We also brought on a couple of consultants to do business coaching in the languages, so specifically in Spanish and a little bit in Brazilian Portuguese, because sometimes our immigrants feel more comfortable just having a direct instead of something being translated. It's been very effective. And then we tried to also help them get their head out of the responding or reacting and more of, okay, the holiday season is upon us. And we started doing these sales workshops to really start drumming up sales. I'm sorry, there's like an ambulance here. And now we're going to offer on-site coaching for all of our markets that they're participating in the fall, winter. So it's something to like challenge them a little bit, but in a more positive way, and hopefully see those sales increase. And then lastly, the 2 more things. One is we partnered with our ESOL team. They really focus on more contextualized English, so English for job search or English for workplace communication, and we did English for entrepreneurship. So we launched that in the Northeast with some of our classes in the Northeast of Philly, which predominantly we operate in Center City and South Philly. So it was nice to be in a different area. And we saw a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs wanting to participate because they want to be able to understand for themselves and not always have to depend on translation, especially in these uncertain times. They just want to make sure that they understand the information in front of them. And then lastly, I mentioned earlier that we had launched a 501c3 called Immigrant-Owned, which has several pillars. One of them is the markets. The other is things like a brokerage, a storefront, e-commerce platform, a procurement process, and the integration of our workforce talent. So that has kind of given us some light in these times, and just seeing all of the interest from both the entrepreneur side as well as funders that are interested in these projects and potential, space opening next year amongst all the excitement for the semi-quincentennial. So I think that gives you something to focus on and not just all of the terrible news every day. So those are some of the different things that we've been up to and that kind of keep us going in our work.
Great. I know that we've been successful not just in Know Your Rights training on individuals, but adapting that for business owners and helping them understand how to prepare for potential ICE raids and how to mark areas as private. And we've been able to interest not just, immigrant small business owners in that, but frankly, wide spectrums of chambers of commerce and others who may even have voted for Trump, but don't want the government coming to their business and disrupting the flow of business. And this can be couched on that, because certainly in that training, we're not at all suggesting people, head for the exits or anything like that. We certainly are not encouraging people to break the law. All right, with that, Juan, how is Civic helping small business owners in this political environment?
Absolutely. First of all, I think this situation has had a very negative impact for these immigrant owners in the Central Valley region. You talk about the fear, right, and the intimidation that many of them face on a daily basis. On the other side, I've seen the other side of the coin, where we see a lot of resiliency and a lot of engagement from immigrant entrepreneurs in our trainings. We have a full house every day here at our office, and we continue to bring resources about for entrepreneurship and digital literacy trainings to rural, hard to reach communities. In most of the cases, people show up with fear, with intimidation. They just keep moving forward. So there's a lot of resiliency coming from our communities directly. In reference to how are we adapting as an organization, from the program implementation angle, we have adapted to the needs and to this reality of the social political environment around immigrant entrepreneurs. So we went from providing in-person trainings to offering the digital or the virtual opportunities for them to connect. Despite offering that, they decide to come into our office, they decide to go in person. And so it is great to see the resiliency and how they're actually facing the situation around them. In terms of ecosystem building, now is the time to create an ecosystem that not only supports these entrepreneurs, but also help them retain and potentially scale their business operations. We are constantly getting engaged in ecosystem building. For example, we are part of Scale Fresno, which is a new initiative at the county level, which mission is to coordinate a strategy among 20 plus organizations aiming at creating an infrastructure for business support at the county of level. So you have CDFIs, you have community-based organizations, you have TA providers, and really understanding the importance of how the collective approach to support immigrant entrepreneurs right now is critical. Because up until now, I would say that many of the organizations were working in silos. So now working together, making sure that they bring these resources to entrepreneurs is making an impact, not only for the type of funding that is being attracted to the region, but also to the end result, which is supporting the immigrant entrepreneurs as well. When it comes to bringing and creating new opportunities for entrepreneurs, we know that access to capital is one of the very difficult challenges that they face on a daily basis, or most of the times, whether they are starting or maybe they are an established business. If they are an immigrant business, they face a lot of challenges when it comes to accessing capital. So what are we doing as an organization? We're partnering with CDFIs to make sure that these immigrant entrepreneurs who face these challenges have an opportunity to access capital. What we're going to do as an organization is partnering with the CDFI and get these entrepreneurs loan ready, get that technical assistance in place. So whenever they get, whenever the CDFI gets an application coming from us, their chances of getting approved for a loan increases. When it comes to advocacy, we are very active on that front. In fact, we actually promoted and worked on AB 2543, which allows undocumented individuals and DACA holders to have access to government contracting. Before that, they did not have a chance to access that resource. So working with local governments, working with State Assembly member Dr. Joaquin Arambula with Immigrants Rising, we were able to have that bill passed and get that signed into law, which means more doors being open for immigrant entrepreneurs, opportunities for business expansion. And that is the power of a collective approach where we are working together as a region of partners for the benefit of the immigrant entrepreneurs of the Central Valley. Not to mention, we're also working on another Senate bill with Senator Ana Caballero, which is Assembly Bill 435, which strengthens the California Privacy Act. We know that this administration is trying to get a lot of information, sensitive information from these immigrant entrepreneur communities. So we're supporting this Assembly Bill 435, to strengthen the California Privacy Act and protect consumer data, specifically citizenship status, social security, and immigration status. So we are extremely active working with local governments, with regional leadership, and at the state level as well. When it comes to expanding resources and creating more visibility and connections for the Central Valley immigrant entrepreneurs, we expanded into Mexico. In fact, we're going to have a collaboration with the Economic Development Secretariat of the state of Michoacan this Friday, where we're going to bring additional resources and services through entrepreneurship and e-commerce trainings for local entrepreneurs, local immigrant entrepreneurs. So we're not just creating ecosystems and a collective approach locally and regionally, but we are now diving into international collaborations. Through this collaboration with the state of Michoacan in Mexico, we're hoping to continue growing that initiative and going around different states of the Mexican Republic. So these are some of the activity that we are working on. Another piece would be the narrative. We had to adapt our language, understanding that the word immigrant gets a lot of attention. Many of our partners are not allowed to work with us just because we're an immigrant integration collaborative, or the word immigrant, it's something that they cannot serve. With all the removal of the DEI services, the lending opportunities, the technical assistance, we had to adapt and create a communication strategy that would remain neutral and allow the partners to still work with us. So there's been a lot of adaptation and a lot of flexibility from us that's been required. But that's some of the activity that we've been able to work on so far.
Juan, there's a question for you about the forms in the chat that maybe you can answer for Claudia. Just over the chat would be great. I do want to add that California has done some amazing things to support immigrant entrepreneurs prior to this presidency, setting aside capital for even undocumented entrepreneurs and funding technical assistance for them. But Michigan, which is a very purple state and has had a Republican legislature, we've been able to create a statewide alliance with not just immigrant serving and ethnic serving organizations and business organizations, but African American serving, but also rural CDFIs. And together there's a Rise Michigan coalition that advocated to the state's Economic Development Office to use some of the funding that the ARP funding to support trusted connectors in all communities, including rural communities. And so that kind of alliance, to just those who have underutilized opportunities or been underserved by opportunities to expand, small business owners who can get access to supports has been successful. And I will say that entrepreneurship, small business tends to be one of these issues that really crosses the aisle sometimes. And so you should think about, there could be new partners and new strategies that are not often available to you when you're fighting for, access to education or healthcare or protection from overly aggressive law enforcement and immigration enforcement. I'm going to turn it to Brian. How are you guys in Cincinnati responding to this political moment in the work that you guys do with small businesses?
Sure. So there's some things we've been able to continue and have become more important now. In addition to that trusted connector role, we also play the role of the convener. And so we've worked with partner organizations like the African Professional Network, the Latino Entrepreneur Academy, Asian Natty, and others as the core anchor communities to bring in partners, whether it's CDFIs, city support from our Department of Community Economic Development, county resources, and others to bring the providers to these events. And we'll go to a local business to be able to put in some money to that local business while we're convening them. And that's been really meaningful now, particularly when we see hesitancy to go out, and also people are hesitant to patronize local businesses out of fear of having ICE present either on site or not, or around the area. So we've been able to convene that. Another program is we work with the local school district and work with English language learning students, and many of them who are already working. So we talk about things like entrepreneurship through acquisition. We talk about the cooperative model, and I have some questions about that as well. And we also combine, because many students have different and varying statuses. So we also enroll, like we bring in Immigrant Refugee Law Center to talk about potential relief and other ways in connecting to immigration services, as well as establishing EINs and registering a business with the state and looking at those kind of ways. So, and what the kind of benefits and also some of the challenges are as far as worker rights in the state of Ohio related to sole proprietors and LLC. But it has been really instructive and helpful for our local high school students who are very entrepreneurial and are working out of economic necessity. So we've been able to continue both of those. And one of the other things, and I'll talk about some things that we're doing as well as some of our partners that kind of combine welcoming and entrepreneurship. And so we've continued that storytelling because we've heard from entrepreneurs, yes, we need access to technical assistance, that both Juan and Layla have talked about, but we're losing patrons. So we need to talk about our story. We also need for our stakeholders to know who we are and the economic impact. So we have economic impact data. We're very excited about the report coming out, Steve, that you mentioned earlier. And then also working with partners. So if it's okay to share in the chat, we did towards the beginning of the year with our regional chamber, an article in Realm magazine highlighting the economic impact that immigrant entrepreneurs bring in the region. So we've heard from our providers from our immigrant entrepreneurs to get more stories out there. Now, some want to kind of keep quiet, but many of them want to elevate so that when they do go engage with a local stakeholder, a city council or county commissioner, that they're aware of the economic impact and the cultural vibrancy that immigrant entrepreneurs bring to local neighborhoods. And so to that end, we've also engaged with local stakeholders to where now city council members are dedicating, whether it's drafting resolutions or dedicating a day to local entrepreneurs and dedicating, and even outside of like Hispanic Heritage Month, API Month, but also to other times to elevate and lift up the platforms, utilize the platform of council members to encourage patronizing local immigrant-owned businesses, right? And so we also do know your rights training. So in addition to the technical assistance, entrepreneurs have asked for know your rights, public versus private space. And Steve, to your point, it's not just immigrant entrepreneurs, but all businesses, many are starting to ask for this. So one of our partners in the region, the Immigrant Dignity Coalition, as part of their broader rapid response network, has canvassed nearly 150 businesses around know your rights and also signage to show that immigrants are welcome here. So that has been really helpful to build a welcoming community. And also to that end, another group, Empowering Spaces, and there'll be one this weekend, working with the broader Middle Eastern and Muslim community in a region of Cincinnati, is to help build conversations across differences while also patronizing local businesses as well. And that is really a good combination of supporting small businesses while enhancing welcoming efforts as well. And so those are kind of some of the areas that we've been able to work with, besides convening, continue that work of bringing providers to trusted spaces of entrepreneurs, but then also elevating narrative and storytelling of the economic impact, and also elevating people as entrepreneurs as people in neighborhoods who are deeply woven in the fabric of our neighborhoods. And it provides more allyship across the communities to help support in those areas as well. And I think, and again, with working with our council members, our commissioners, to leverage their platforms, yes, we want some policies and looking at state level around access to lows because people still want access to capital. But what does that mean as it relates to immigration status as well? But working with our local elected officials to be more knowledgeable around the economic impact of immigrants, entrepreneurs, as well as the intersections of their immigration status and entrepreneurship as it relates to access to some of the technical assistance as well as funding that's available. Because I think that's another need that we've been addressing here locally in the region.
There's some other questions in the chat, which I'm going to actually let Lola get to, and I'm going to close this portion out for me, and then Lola is going to take over with a question to each of you, which is what gives you hope right now? So, Layla, is there something that out there that is giving you hope around immigrant small business owners?
Well, that's given me hope. I think when you're working so closely with them every single day, like that is the energy that you feed off of. But I mean, there's a lot to be looking forward to, which is we have a really long wait list for classes now. We're adding more classes for next year. There's a lot of good energy in Philly with the Summit Quincentennial and FIFA coming next year. So we're looking at new opportunities around that. We are continuing to lean on the communities around us and integrating further into their festivals, their events, pivoting businesses into different directions. And that's exciting because I'll give an example that we have a laundry business that started in the Northeast. And she was like, I want to do it my way. I think I want to ask for some money for a laundry truck and just go on the road with my laundry service. I don't think I want to be based in just one place all the time and, the traditional setting. So we're taking risks. We're, doing things in a different way. And I think that's really exciting. And I have a lot of hope that there's more sort of this acceptance around like working in different languages. Like I myself may not understand every language that is being run in the department that they oversee, but I have like full faith in all of the community that comes together to make those things happen, and it just provides a lot more comfort, and we see so much more like productivity and success for the immigrant entrepreneur. So yeah, and I know there was a couple of questions about cooperatives as well. We have PACA, which is a cooperative alliance in Philly, and we have joined forces to go after some money together to continue to support immigrant led and owned cooperatives in Philly. And we have 2 out of the Welcoming Center, and there's about 3 or 4 under PACA that we're integrating into different parts of our work throughout the year. So hoping to expand on the cooperative side as well.
Thanks. And Sloan, thanks for putting it in the chat. Juan, what is giving you hope right now?
That's a fantastic question. I would say mainly it is the people that we serve. It's incredible to see how resilient and how brave they are, that despite their very negative situation and dangerous situation, because it is life-changing for many of them, they still decide to show up. They still decide to move forward with their entrepreneurship plans. And then also, I would add to that I'm seeing a region and ecosystems open to recognize that immigrant entrepreneurs are not just participants of the local economies. They are driving its growth and they're shaping the local economies as well. And that is, reflected in the ecosystem building that, we're continuously invited to, now working with an international state in Mexico, and then all the way to having conversations and being at the decision tables on economic development plans for the region, collaborations with the local governments as well. So there's a lot of openness to recognizing and then truly putting a magnifying glass on the impact that these entrepreneurs bring to the region. So very hopeful, with our community, and very hopeful with the work and the commitment from the regional partners, state level advocacy efforts as well. And so, yeah, I'm very hopeful, and hopefully things get better, and I'm very optimistic about, what the years to come.
Ryan, how about yourself? What's giving you hope around immigrant entrepreneurs?
Yeah, there's a lot, right? And sometimes it doesn't feel like there's any hope, right? But I think there's a lot, like just the number of people that are on this call asking questions that are concerned about this topic gives me hope, right?
I think you
I
cut
think,
out.
can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think just, the fact that so many people join this call that are interested in this topic and are asking questions, that gives me hope, right? I think that's a great place to start. Also, in thinking about, yes, the resiliency, the continued willingness to show up of our immigrant entrepreneurs. And then as Juan shared, it's great. In the region, we have a very strong entrepreneurial ecosystem. And it's when other people who are not directly tied to immigrant entrepreneurship are also now talking the language and advocating. That is really powerful to see. And also to see how I was just talking, it's Philly Market, but there's a food uh, based incubator accelerator program, Finley Kitchen. And and we partner with them a lot from being a pipeline into their programs as well as supporting their entrepreneurs around just kind of holistic services. But the number of people who have reached out, I want to help support by providing technical assistance. I do taxes. I want to help businesses with their taxes. I do web design. I will help people with their marketing and branding to reach a broader audience. Just having that ask of volunteership from not directly impacted communities. I mean, we're all impacted, right? But just having the interest of people with technical skills to want to volunteer to support immigrant entrepreneurs because they understand that they are being directly attacked gives me hope. And then the third is that we have, some of the local foodie groups on social media that kind of lift up food-based entrepreneurs, kind of the influencers, if you will, are now saying, "Hey, we've talked with a local business owner. We know there was a mass arrest of about 35 people at such and such location. They're struggling, or they just had their asylum claim denied after being here for 30 years. Go patronize this business who's been an anchor institution." And so that has been a way to use consumerism as activism as a way to bring support to community members. So I think there's different kind of levels, and even the way that our local elected officials have stepped up in meaningful ways to be a voice and platform for immigrant entrepreneurs as well to bring resources. So there's multiple things, and it's more, and I forget that sometimes, right? Because it is hard, it is painful, but I think there is a lot of assets that gives us hope and strength going forward.
So with that, I think it's good to add Lola into the conversation for a little bit of reflection and engagement of the rest of you all to ask questions more directly or share other things that you guys are doing around the country in your own communities. And so I kick it over to Lola.
All right. Thank you, Steve. The impact and contribution of immigrant businesses is massive. And as we've just heard and seen with the data that Steve presented, thank you. Yet, as we know, they often face challenges that go beyond the typical barriers of entrepreneurship. Juan, Layla, and Brian, the work you're doing to support immigrant small businesses is very impressive. Thank you. I'm going to start with some of the questions that are in the chat. The first one, I think, is specifically for Juan. Claudia says, please, can you repeat the forms that allows undocumented, I'm guessing small businesses, to contract with the government?
Sure thing. That would be Assembly Bill 2543.
Bill 2543. Thank you.
Yeah. AB 2543.
Thank you. All right. The next one is, can we address how employee-owned cooperatives are working or what issues create barriers? And this is for any one of you or all of you. Anyone? Do you want me to repeat the question? Can we address how employee-owned cooperatives are working or what issues create barriers? This was from Michelle. I
think
can
if
all,
the person could elaborate maybe more on, in terms of our working, like how does it function as a cooperative, or just a little more explanation would help.
Michelle, are you still on here? Are you on the call? Michelle, I don't want to mess up your name, Massergian? Is she on?
I'm just going to jump in 1 second from our own experience at Global Detroit, which is that we've done some worked with some partners who have done some outreach in immigrant communities to including through Welcoming America. Actually, we worked with many voices, one MLove, many languages, one voice in Washington D.C. through the Welcoming Economies TA program, and so while cooperatives in some ethnic communities are very common as is sort of informal operations, sometimes here in the United States, like the culture is much more business ownership. And so sometimes that even though there are opportunities and some folks desire them, there are sometimes those in the immigrant community would rather own their own business and don't necessarily want to work with others. So I have seen both sometimes a desire to do more of a cooperative relationship and a lack of technical assistance. So like, how do you structure that ownership? How do you manage capital? How do you structure the financial transactions? Certainly sometimes making sure you have trust. I know that, for example, the Mission Asset Fund out of San Francisco has sought to provide funding all across the country to cooperatives, but sometimes that level of trust that allowed those circles, lending circles, to succeed abroad are hard to replicate in the United States, or the intermediary organization like the Global Detroit or whatever. If we received the backing of Mission Asset Fund, maybe doesn't have that kind of trust among the players, and then making sure that there's technical assistance. And sounds like co-op Cincy. I know there's one in Detroit, and I'll get it to folks who are wondering. And PACA in Philadelphia are helping people navigate those legal hurdles.
Thank you, Steve. I'm going to go to the next one. What tools do you rely on to assess the viability of entrepreneur plans and potential for success in the local economy or in e-commerce, scoping the target consumer and their needs, etc.? Anyone, do you have any tools that you can share with us that you use with the audience?
I can jump in. So I would say the very or the strongest asset that we have as an organization is the technical assistance component through our team. So being able to not only assess and evaluate the business where they're at, where they want to go, but also see how feasible that business idea is. So we are currently working with the local governments, understanding not only which sectors are expanding, but which sectors are contracting, and then having a very good idea of how the industry trends are moving. So that I feel like us as service providers or entrepreneurship training providers, we also have a responsibility with these entrepreneurs and just providing the information on what opportunities are there. Is their business ideas feasible? Is it realistic? Is it not realistic? So I would say the technical assistance component that we have in-house, the partnerships that we have with the local governments and those service providers that really understand what's going on out there. When it comes to e-commerce and digital economy, we're actually diving into that topic ourselves as an organization, and providing a training accelerator program that not only trains these individuals, these immigrant entrepreneurs and business owners, but also integrate them into the local economy, whether that is through Shopify, maybe understanding how the legality, the legal component of doing e-commerce can affect and impact their business operations. So anything from understanding e-commerce, setting them online for online sales, all the way to the legalities behind conducting online sales. We make sure that they understand and get the resources and the services and the knowledge they need in order to be successful and at the same time protect themselves.
Awesome. Thank you. We also have some resources that we can share with you. This is for the audience. Anthony, if you don't mind, if you can show the slide so everyone can see the resources that they can access after this session. So the team has been kind enough to get these resources together for you to access. They will also be in the email that will go out after this session so that you can access some data, some important information. Some of your questions can also be answered there.
Lola, can I add? There's a lot of stuff on the Welcoming Economy or the Welcome America site that we've done in the past. The state and local policy playbook from Build From Within is a pretty comprehensive book about city and county and state laws and public policies that can support underrepresented entrepreneurs, including African American, Latinx, immigrant entrepreneurs from low-income communities. So it's everything from like code enforcement policies around food trucks to how to fund small business loans to making it easier to incorporate on the state and local level, to creating a business liaison within a mayor's office, to subsidizing the redevelopment of vacant spaces or public spaces. There's a lot of information in that playbook. And then the third bullet there is the one that we've already shared in the chat on the micro entrepreneurs. And then the last one is Welcoming America's partner, the American Immigration Council, who they do Gateways for Growth with. And that is, if you go to that map, theimpact.org, you can find those based by state or sometimes your community, some of those statistics already about the number of business owners and the amount of money they jump into. Obviously, when we get this data with Build From Within Alliance and Immigrant Research Initiative, you'll have a lot more direct data on business ownership and ethnic and immigrant communities.
Thank you, Steve. So with that, I would like to thank our speakers and to all of you for joining us today and for being part of this final Welcoming Economy session of the year. The conversations and insights that have been shared here do not have to end today. We invite you to continue this discussion in our member forum for our members. And this is where you can ask questions, share resources, stay connected with your peers. And for those of you that are not yet members and would like to learn more about joining the network, please feel free to visit our website or reach out to me directly. My email is in the slide. Anthony, you can go to the next slide, please. You can see my email there, and I'll be happy to speak with you and share more about how to get involved. We are currently planning our programming for next year, so please keep an eye out for updates on what's to come, including our Welcoming Economies work in 2026. Thank you again for spending your time with us today and for the important work that you continue to do in our communities. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. So good to see you.